The boss is too hard for what it drops. The drops themselves suck, the intro sequence for the normal mode fight is unnecessary and tedious, hard mode is pointless, the boss hits too hard, and quite frankly, it's just underwhelming for what it was hyped up to be. Jagex might have butchered their biggest PvM release of the year, but how bad is it actually? In this video, we will analyze Vorkath and see where they went wrong. So, let's talk about it. Now, it isn't as bad as I make it out to be. Quite frankly, I think Vorkath is a perfect example of small issues accumulating into a big old complaint session on social media by the player base. And rightfully so, there's a lot wrong with the boss at the moment, yet I feel like the majority of them are smaller issues and one bigger one that we'll tackle in this video. However, I do want to clarify that they are listening to our feedback and already made some changes this Monday. So please, if you still have any feedback, write it up politely and they're willing to listen. Now enough shilling out, let's burn this dragon to the ground. Before we even get into the boss fight, I think we need to look at the quest that introduces Vorkath. Well, the fight, not the boss. Because Ancient Awakening, the quest before the Battle of 4 and 3, introduces Vorkath, and that is one of my biggest gripes with Runescape this year. The splitting up of content. I get it, they want to have content released every single month, but it just feels awful. I'd way rather have a month with quality of life updates and then a month with a big update. Because with Vorkath, the Ancient Awakening quest introduces Vorkath and showed it going to the fort to destroy it. And that story get picked up straight away within 2 minutes of starting the new quest. So Vorkath just circled around the fort for a month, waiting to attack? In all seriousness, these two quests should have been one big epic quest, because the way they set up the fight in Ancient Awakening was great, and it got you hyped, only to have you wait for another month and pretty much make the Battle of the Fort quest, the boss fight and some little extra stuff into a quest when it could have been one big quest. Now, that is just something I have an issue with, I guess, but many more people have it with the boss themselves. Let's start with getting there, because that is a chore in normal mode, in my and many other people's opinions. If you aren't aware, before taking on Vorkath, you first have to disable a place of power, just like you did in the quest. The more you disable, the easier the boss fight gets. But it's not worth doing, because the giants that protect these places of power have 200k health and hit like a truck. So if you want supplies at Vorkath, the best strat is to go to the western one, get pummeled by that giant and go into the fight. This is a cool idea on paper, but in reality it just kind of sucks. It feels tedious and boring that you have to take on this giant every single time before you can actually start the boss fight. Plus, it takes some supplies because it hits hard and you can't use it to build stacks either, because you will lose them once you teleport into the actual bossing arena. In my opinion, just remove it or let us skip it altogether after X amount of kill count, because in hard mode you can skip it straight away. Speaking of hard mode, it's not worth doing. Not really. It's a very cool fight and adds loads of difficulty, but there are no uniques exclusive to the mode. So the fight takes longer, the loot did get buffed, but still doesn't seem to make hard mode that much more worth it for the effort you have to put in. In my opinion, they should have added a unique that you could only get from hard mode that has some proper use and people are willing to actually chase. I said it at the start and I will say it again. This boss fight is actually really cool with some great mechanics. It even stayed true to the original Vorkath, introduced an old school RuneScape with the poison mechanic and the ice breath, but just with a RuneScape 3 twist to it. But the boss hitting like a truck even when you pray just feels terrible. It's difficult to sustain because it hits hard. Even when you do everything right, it just feels terrible, man. Animate, Dead or Darkness are pretty much hard requirements, because otherwise it is too difficult to sustain if you're not too skilled at PvM. I'm not saying you shouldn't need to use supplies, but at least make it more rewarding to execute all the mechanics right, and it includes having the right prayer up at the right time. And RuneScape, please don't have us deal with minions during the fight. In my opinion, it just doesn't work, especially during a boss fight where there's already a lot going on and your view gets blocked by this big old dragon. Maybe it's just me because I have poor eyesight, but most of the times I don't even see the minions, or they're just literally underneath Vorkath. Unless they pop the shield over Vorkath, then I know one is there and I just hope that I can spot it. It might be a me issue, but I know that some other people struggle with it, but let me know. I think the hottest topic surrounding this boss has been the loot and the lack of normal loot at that, which I think is fine. Not all bosses need to be the best in slot moneymaker when they release, especially if they aren't meant to be the absolute endgame bosses. I believe this boss is supposed to be sitting around Raksha levels, and Raksha is good money. I mean, their uniques are way better, but it's still not the best consistent money in the game, just like Vorkath. However, the crafting idea behind the new gear just feels wacky to me. I way prefer a boss that has different armor pieces to chase or a singular attachment if they really want to add it to Serenic, which they did with this armor, instead of having to craft it. One big drop feels more exciting and entices more people to grind out the boss than these small little increments that you get every single time. Right now, people just go there, get the locked on, and don't return because there's no excitement about getting that one expensive drop because there are none. I just think that all of this is just a shame because the core content that is there is actually great. Aesthetically, the boss and the arena look stunning, the core mechanics are well thought out and executed, the new loot chest system is great because I just love stacking caskets, and the overall idea behind the rewards, the buff to Serenic, and filling in empty slots and gear progression paths in Runescape is also great, but just poorly executed with the way you obtain these upgrades. And with the way the Runescape community is, when something releases poorly, it will be remembered as a bad update most of the time. They really just shot themselves in the foot. Had Ryan the RS guy or Protox give some feedback. They both spotted most of these issues on day one and could have helped prevent some of the backlash. Backlash this content doesn't deserve, in my opinion at least. I'm just glad that they are recognizing the feedback being given by the community and the changes they are making to the boss, but it's still a shame that such a high piece of content delivered a feeling of underwhelmment and just disappointment. Now, that is just my opinion. I would love to hear what yours is in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe. We are still trying to get to 5K by the end of the year. My name's Chevalric, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye!